A message from our sponsor, Ingram Barge Company. Calling all pilots in the Gulf region. Ingram Barge Company is offering a $5,000 sign-on bonus for pilots interested in liveaboard positions. We offer a variety of schedules including 28 and 14, 20 and 10, and 21 and 21. Applicants must have a Master of Towing Vessels license with Inland and Western Rivers endorsements. Ingram offers a competitive benefits package and 401k with company match. Apply today at www.ingrambarge.com.
Welcome back to Between the Levees. I am joined today by Brad Glenn. I met this gentleman when I started in the industry in 2015 at AEP. He was in a safety role at the time. Fair number of years preceded that, though, in the industry. He's been in the industry almost 20 years. He's on this year's list of 40 under 40 honorees, receiving that designation at the end of next month in Nashville. I do know his father was in the industry well before him, and we'll get into that as soon as we can here. Mr. Glenn, thank you for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Yes, sir. Where were you born, man?
I was born in Sikeston, Missouri, but I lived in East Prairie, Missouri the first 10 years of my life.
What prompted a move?
Kind of backtrack a little bit. My dad being a river captain, he started out on the boats, and in '94 we moved to Scott City, Missouri, which is a little closer to Cape Girardeau. He came shoreside, took over operations at Lure Brothers there.
Tell me about his career.
Yeah, so like I said, from East Prairie, Missouri, Dad started. He retired at 40 years at Lure Brothers, but he was on the river for almost 50 years, if you want to think about it. He started in the early 70s. He was with Cardinal Marine, started there, and then I think in '79 he got on with Lure Brothers. Mom, worked at the school there in the first few years, and then in '94 we moved to Scott City. That's when he came shoreside. She came up there, and new job as well. So it's kind of how it started.
Did he bring you on the boat anytime growing up?
Oh yeah. So the river's been in my blood my entire life. It's something we had a radio in my mom's bedroom, and he's passing in the river in New Madrid, Missouri, in that area. We'd always try to call him on the radio, and we had all the captains on the river laughing and talking to us, trying to get a hold of Dad, especially when Mom would get on to us, trying to holler at Dad. So always had that going. And the flooding '93 was a big one for me. Mr. Lure let my dad take me out on the boat with him. He was on the J Lure, and they were the flood of '93. He was around New Madrid, shoved in. I got to go out there for a week with him. So that was the first time getting on, behind the sticks, wheelhouse, on his lap, seeing what the industry is all about, going out on the barges with the crew, and just feeling like I'm part of it. And I think ever since then, it's been in my blood.
Tell me more about that week on the boat.
Being '93, I'm kind of showing my age here. I'm not that old, I guess. I was 10. So out there, to me, it was just more fun than anything, just being able to sit in the wheelhouse. I told you the other day, we had a first ACBL class there about the cook. I guess that's most memories came from that, is because when he was working, I didn't understand at the time, but hey, I can't be in the wheelhouse while he's doing his thing. And he'd send me down there with the cook, and I learned how to make pies, and we'd go fishing. And, I had endless chili cheese Fritos that I wanted, and I felt like the king of the boat, if you know what I'm saying. But just the whole atmosphere, the family orientation they had on that boat, and with the crew, and everyone accepted me in as, part of their family. I thought the work ethic and the way things go, just so neat as a kid to see that. It just really put in my mind that, hey, when my dad's gone, he's taken care of. He's got another family there that he has to work with, and and it's a great job to have. So it's a good impression on a 10-year-old.
And how many other chances did you have to get on board a vessel before you actually got into the industry?
There was a few here and there. Boat christenings, or if he'd come into town, I'd get on one with him. But he was a live on, so it's a little hard, being live on, to go jump on a boat with him and ride. So when he's shoved in somewhere, or if he's at the shipyard or something like that, then I was able to go with Mom and the family and see him. But other than that, it was always going out to the levee and waving at him as he passed by, and that was always part of it.
Was he 28 and 28?
Yes, yeah, he was on the big boats there.
What was life growing up like that, a month at a time with Dad?
It was rough. My mom, she put out so much for us. I have two older sisters. She was always there for us. She worked in the school system. So while he was gone, she was there for us when we're home. She's home. But not having dad around, when mom would get on to you, it's, wait till your dad gets home and, then you're gonna get punished. And that's the last thing you want, waiting on him to get home. But luckily for me, like I said, it was my first 10 years of life. So it didn't hit the sports or the teenage years where, dads are important to me. So my sisters probably hit him a little harder, but it was still rough not having around those first 10 years. When he came shoreside in 94 though, he was there for everything. So, kind of changed things.
Well, tell me about life growing up.
Yeah. So, just small country boy from Scout City. I had two older sisters, always into sports, hunting, fishing. It was kind of a normal life there. Thought I was going to play football out of high school and ended up, thinking about it with my dad. I'm like, do I really want to spend 4 more years of, football in college and hurt myself even more? Or do I want to try something different? And, so going from playing sports all the time and going that route, I found out with Noranda Aluminum, New Madrid, Missouri, that they had a scholarship going that was to be an electrician. So right out of high school, you take this test, and if you're selected, they'll pay for 4 years of college, and you'll be an electrician. So I said, what? I think I'm gonna give that a shot. So I did, and I was the only one that passed the test, and I was given the first scholarship from Noranda Aluminum in Madrid, Missouri. So, I went from a sports guy to no sports to going to be an electrician. So this is all new to me. So I went to Southeast Missouri State for 2 years, doing industrial technologies, computer electronics, working at the plant in the summers. And Tim, I'm gonna tell you, I absolutely hated it. I hated it. And I'm young and just didn't know what I wanted to do, but it was a start. So I took it upon myself to quit. I said, you know what? This isn't for me. I'm done. So I quit, went in my dad's office one day and I said, hey, Dad, I'm done. I'm not going to college anymore. I don't like being in the plant. I want to go work on the boats. That was my mentality, that it was just going to be given to me, right? Dad's been on the river all these years and he's going to say, all right, son, come work for me. That was what I was thinking, right? Well, I was wrong, trust me. So I was sitting there on his couch. He said, all right, get out of my office. And I was like, oh, crud, I'm in trouble now. But about a week later, he called me back in. He said, come to my office, son. I sat down and he handed me a stack of bills. He goes, well, you're out of college now. You're a big boy. Here's all your bills, your truck note, everything else. As I told you, I'd help you while you're in college, but now you're on your own. You're a big boy. You find a job. He said, you will not work for me. And that was shattering. I knew I was going to end up on the river somehow. And I was like, man, I can't believe it. So I ended up getting a laborers union and I was pouring concrete. I did that for about a year, pouring concrete, doing scaffolding, fireproofing, the new photo building that was in Cape being built at that time. Around that time period, I did all the concrete, fireproofing, all the curbing at the Southeast Missouri State campus, and it's really bust my butt doing concrete, trying to prove to my dad that, I want to work, I'm serious, college wasn't for me, and I can hold a job. So it was hot August, and I was soaking wet, concrete all over me. I went back to Dad's office, plumped down on his leather couch. I'm sure he loved that, right? And I said, I think I've proven myself. Can I please work on the river? And again, he told me, no, you'll never work for me. And he paused and he said, but I'll call Jay Lure and see if we can't figure something out and get you a start on the construction side of things. So, that's where my river career started. I was lucky enough to get a deckhand job on the construction side, building rock dikes. So I was on a dragline barge, and my job was whatever that dragline operator needed. If I needed to grease the crane, grease the winches, whatever he needed, labor intensive, I would do it. And that's how it all started, Tim. That's went from there to, being an engineer's assistant with the construction company. After about 3 months of doing the decking, the engineer kind of caught his attention with calculations and survey guns and showing him that I could do a little more than just decking. And I think it kind of made my dad mad too. I moved up pretty quick, but yeah, that's how it all started there.
Tell me about those couple of years on deck.
Well, with them, it wasn't really on deck. Like I said, it was a couple months there. Then I went to the surveying side of things. So I was actually the one that would go to the job before it would start, set up the grade for where the rock dikes are going to go, set up all the drafts with the Corps of Engineers. We get together and see what's going to be next. So like Randolph Bluff, Covington, Tennessee, all those dikes you see out there. We had a survey set up and top those out. the 600,000 ton of rock in Algiers Point, put that in to Louisiana, some dikes there that helped put in. But it was really, it went from decking to survey gun engineering calculations, if you know what I'm saying. So, but yeah, went from there to, if you want to talk about decking, so how I ended up decking, how I ended up on the river on the boat and barge side, doing that for a couple of years. I was in New Orleans and doing a 600,000 ton rock job there at Algiers Point. And that was the first job that they were really trying to see if I had what it takes to, you know, kind of manage a job. And it was 3 months long there for a while. And you know, we stayed at Riverside Hotel in Belchase. And, you know, while I was there, you know, when you travel like we did, we travel all over, you know, Texas, Tennessee, wherever, excuse me. You learn that, you know, you don't eat out all the time. You bring stuff with you, you cook in the parking lot. We're always frying fish or whatever. So that's how, you know, we were at the hotel. We were always taking plates to the ladies at the front desk. And one of the ladies at the front desk happens to be my wife now. She was working the front desk there while she was in college to be a respiratory therapist. And at the time, you know, I wasn't really talking to her at the hotel, but ended up going out with a group of friends that I met there through the hotel to a Molly Ringwald's concert. And she was there with us, and started talking to her. And you know, I talked to her for a few months and started dating. And I left, went back to Covington, Tennessee, came back, and she already had my hotel room booked for me, the same room. She had the magazines I read in the room, Diet Dr. Pepper that I like, a book series I was reading. She bought the rest of them, had it in there for me. So I kind of walked in, I was like, you know, this girl's something here, you know. So, and trust me, it wasn't long after that, I find myself in Jailer's office, quitting my job and moving to New Orleans or Belchase rather, with no job. And again, you know, my dad, my best friend, I owe him everything. He made a call to Pat McDaniels. Pat McDaniels was the senior vice president, ex-time Marine back then. I guess this is around 2006. Okay, so yeah, I started Lure Brothers 2004, so this is around 2006. And Pat told my dad, he said, you know, he can come run a crew van for me, or I got a guy I can talk to that's been looking for a deckhand or fleet mate laborer there in the area. So I didn't want to run a crew van. I wanted to work on the river, you know. So I said, well, I'd like to meet with his friend. So met with Terrence Gomez, which you've had on the show, at Voodoo Barbecue. It's him and Sidney Gasson. They call him Butch. Met at Voodoo Barbecue. It's for AEP, and they did a little interview there. And Terrence, a great guy, and you know, I owe him everything for getting me started. But he told me, he said, well, he says, I'm impressed. You know, your work ethic, I think you'll be good here, but it's one person you have to impress to get this job, and that's Sam Barrios. He's one of my best friends to this day. So that's how it all started for me. I got the job as a fleet mate there at Algiers. And so decking wise, I decked from 2006 to 2011.
Tell me about your tenure there.
Yeah, so, you know, I had some great leadership mentors being a deckhand fleet mate. You know, Sam, for one, just very knowledgeable in the fleets, and learned a lot from him on how moorings work and the fleet works. Chris Bosarge being the lead deckhand out there and mate, he taught me how to deck. I owe him a lot as well. But, you know, being out there working with those boats, the crews, I mean, I knew this is going to be the rest of my career. You know, they always say you wear out your first pair of work boots, you're never going to quit. And that's the truth. Even today, being in the office, I think about it sometimes, man, I'd love to go back out and just deck, you know, get the stress off and go back on deck. But learned a lot, learned to weld, you know, all the fittings in Algiers fleet. We put that fleet together, all the buttons, kevels, the fore and aft. We had to weld that whole fleet up. So a lot of that, really enjoyed it. But I guess what, you know, really triggered me was the safety that was involved with the industry. You know, it wasn't just go out there, get it done, and go home. It was go out there, do it safely, and go home. And that's, you know, the mindset AEP had at the time, and they, you know, till the end. And that really triggered me. So about halfway through my decking, I found another calling. I really enjoyed safety. I really enjoyed the safety meetings. I was asking the safety people that were with AEP at the time if I could do some of the meetings at the office and stuff, and, you know, help out. And that's when I decided, you know, I think I found a calling and I want to go back to school. And Sam Barrios being the great guy he is, and AEP had a good program for, going back and getting your education. He said, you know what? He said, if you want to go back and get your degree in safety, he goes, I'll help you. You do your job, you do it good. And, if you have a little time on the side, you can work on your projects for school and get your work done, and we'll help you get your degree. And Sam backed me 100% on that. And 2006, 2011, I got my degree in occupational safety and health through AEP. And, I couldn't be more grateful. So that's the decking period there, I guess.
Well, then I met you 4 years after that. You were well into a safety career. I guess, run me through a day in the life of a safety guy from when you started till I met you.
Well, let me back you up a little bit. So 2011, when I got my degree, 2 weeks after, right, I get a call from Harry Brock. And he said, I want to meet with you and talk to you about a job as a wash repair facility manager. And I am so confused, Tim. I'm like, man, I want to be a safety guy. Why does this guy want to talk to me about being a facility manager? And I'm still young. I had no idea what's going on. And I'm like, okay, well, it's an opportunity to get off deck, go into management, learn something new. So I met with him. He said, very proud of your work ethic, finishing college. And I really think you're the right guy for me. You've been working at this dock for, since 2006, the wash repair facility. It's, there's one there at Algiers as well. He said, I want you to go down to Myrtle Grove and be the manager of that wash repair facility. I said, Harry, it's not safety. He said, I know that, but I think your management skills are going to prosper there. And he said, I'm going to teach you along the way about budgeting and, how to run a facility and manage people. So I took a risk. I said, okay, let's do it. And so that was the first 2 years out of college, was down in Myrtle Grove doing that by the IMT facility, running that wash repair facility. And I learned so much, grew up so much from being a deckhand to a management position where you're running a multi-million-dollar operation. You have employees you have to take care of, the good and the bad, right? And Harry, I'll tell everyone to this day, he taught me so much about managing and budgeting. So I mean, that's something that when you're decking, you don't think about budgets or what you need to hit, what you need to cost savings, and analyzing those spreadsheets. And he would take me into his office for hours and just run through them with me and show me what I need to look at and what I could do better at. And I take that with me to this day in my personal finances as well as work. I mean, it's something I'll never forget. So I owe him a lot for that. But 2 years into it, I get a call again, and AEP's making some change ups. They're selling stuff, buying different things. And so I think that's when Turn Services bought that facility down there, and they got rid of the Myrtle Grove wash repair facility and moved it across the river. I got a call from Tim Callahan asking to go into engineering. And I'm like, again, this is not safety. Like, what's going on? I don't get it. What happened was that was when that safety runner incident happened. If you remember that or not, where it was over in Mobile around that barge that exploded, and it caused the boat to implode from the inside. So that boat was in the shipyard, and Tim wanted me to go into engineering to rebuild that boat from the ground up. Basically, go through the full investigation, rebuild it, make it look better than the day it came out of the shipyard. I was really nervous. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a mechanic. Again, it's the stepping stone. And he said the same thing Harry told me was, it's for your management. We know you're going to manage it well. We want you to do this. So I did. That was the next year of my life at the Belle Chase Shipyard, which is now James Marine down there in off Engineers Road. I spent a year of my life there, rebuilding that boat from the ground up, videoing the taking apart of the generators and putting them back together, dealing with all the lawyers and the different vendors. And, it was probably one of the biggest learning years of my career as far as how a boat works, taking it all apart, putting it back together. And then from there, I got a call during that from Tom Reeves asking to go into tank barges. And again, I'm like, you guys are killing me. This is not safety. But we were starting a tank barge program with AEP. That's when we started building the 10,000 barrel barges. And so along with Matt Lagarde and a bunch of other people, a lot smarter than me, we got together and started building the tank barge program, and got to go up and see a barge built from a sheet of steel to the finished product, and help build those plans and policies and inspections and doing all that. And that's when Jeff Kiefer came down. Jeff was over, you remember Jeff. he came down and he sat me in the office and he said, Brad, he said, I don't know if you understand what we've been doing the last few years. He said, but I could have put you into safety right out of college. He said, but what good would that have done me without giving you a chance to see everything? He said, you've done A, B, and C now, and you know more about the operation than you would have if I'd have put you in 2011. He said, now I'm ready to ask you, would you be safety manager for the Gulf? That's how it all started, Tim. It was a roundabout. I was very confused and frustrated, but I just went with it. I said, all right, that's my next step. That's my next step. It was never explained to me in the beginning. It was explained to me in the end, right? So I was very grateful for that. When I took over safety, it was for the facilities, the vessels, and the shipyard in the Gulf. And man, I tell you, it was a big adjustment. I wanted safety, and they gave it to me.
Before we get into your tenure as a safety man, I think that safety runner incident occurred before I started with AEP. Remind me, what happened over there?
I don't know all the details. I mean, fresh on my mind, it's been a while, but I know there was a barge over there that had some issues and it blew up. So our boat it sucked in the fumes and caused it to implode. So you think of like something exploding, that just imagine a hurricane going through the inside of the boat. That's basically what it was like. All the glass was blown out. The kitchen fridge is knocked over, all the ceiling tiles pulled down, engines, generators, just a mess. Everything just, imagine imploded. Imagine a hurricane going through the inside of a boat. That's what we were left with. So it was a mess for sure.
I know there was some severe injury, but did we lose anybody?
No, we did not. We had a guy that was hurt pretty bad, and and he stuck with us, and we got him back. He worked with us in the office there for a long time, and thankfully, no one was killed during that.
All right. Well, stepping forward into your tenure as a safety guy, what was I guess a regular day? If you're over, you said facilities, vessels, and shipyard.
Right. So you can imagine safety. The way we ran with AEP was you're over all the injuries, investigations, and trainings, and there was no training department. Safety and training were one, right? So keeping up with the trainings for the facilities, the inspections for the facilities, the boats, the same thing. Working with the port captains and operations on all the audits and vessel visits, safety trainings, and the shipyard the same way. Shipyard's 1915 OSHA regulations, so they have their own set of trainings. So a lot of training, and then injuries, and then injury investigations. That takes up 90% of it, and the other 10% of the phone calls you get at 2 a.m. that my belly hurts, or I really am hurt. So phone never stops ringing, and when you become a safety guy, your phone's at your side all the time.
Was it as interesting and fun as you had hoped?
It was even more. I tell you what I like about the safety department, and running safety is you're working with everyone. That was when it really opened the doors for me, working with operations. So I got to work with Denny Palmer and those guys in operations, the port captains, Matt Lagarde and Sean Dozat, and Alfred Nicky, Captain Alfred. Got to work with him, and you learn so much. Tim Callahan, same thing. We had we called the situation room. We all go in a room, round table, and discuss what's going on, and they'd value my opinion just as much as I would take theirs, and let them know what I'm seeing, and they would take it to heart, and same back, right? So being able to build that group with operations, and then going on in the boats. I've always said that FaceTime builds culture, right? The more FaceTime you have on the vessels, the more culture you build with your company. And that's something I've always liked about safety and being in that role is your boss doesn't want you in the office. Yeah, you get stuck in the office a lot for investigations and reports, but when you can get on a boat, it's even better, because you're putting a face with a name. You're spending time with those guys. What are their needs? What are their issues? How can we make it better for them? And I think that's what I enjoyed the most about the safety department, was being able to go out, get on any boat, go to any facility, go to the shipyard, and just talk with the different crews and meet so many people, and people that have given me ideas and suggestions to help make the company and the industry better.
Anything else interesting or especially memorable come to mind about that time before we get into the ACBL transition?
No, I mean, that's basically it. It's a good job meeting a lot of people, working with operations. Definitely miss that team that I still remember the situation room, as Tim Callahan would call it, and just working with those guys. It's just, there's nothing like it.
Well, a few years after that, ACBL acquires AEP, and I don't remember how long you were with us, but I know you parted ways shortly thereafter. Walk me through, I guess that period of time.
Yeah, so I stayed on. So when ACBL bought us out, my job changed. I was still in safety, but it was basically facilities. So my main focus was to go to all of our facilities with my OSHA background and do OSHA audits. So I was doing, going to Carroll, Illinois, St. Louis, wherever they needed me, and doing the OSHA inspections and making sure we're in compliance with regulation. So basically just dealing with facilities at that time. And I'd still help with any investigations for the boats or whatever was needed from me or the group. But it was a lot of it was facilities. And I was there about a year and a half before we parted ways. So I stayed on, I guess it was probably a little up September, October, somewhere in there in 2017 is when I parted ways with ACBL.
And where'd you end up? Plims, right?
Well, not at first. So, I put a lot of time in, and, going back from 2004 to 2017, where I built myself, and as much, I really feel like, when I work for a company, I give it my all. I've always been that way. If you're going to allow me to work for you and you're going to give me a check to support my family, I'm going to give you everything I got, right? That's the way I've always been. That's my mentality. And I gave, the industry everything I had. Even when ACBL bought us, I was, yes, sir, we're going to do it your way. We'll get it done. We'll knock it out. And really, really, really worked hard. And we parted ways in 17. I was frustrated and, kind of down. And I said, you know what? The hell with it. I'm quitting the river for a year. I'm not going to do it anymore. I said, I'm just fed up. And I'm, that's kind of at the point in my life, I had to figure out what I want to do, or if this is really what I want to do the rest of my life. And so that was the first year, I got to hunt for a month, 2 months before I got another job. So, it was kind of nice. I got to deer hunt for 2 months without worrying about taking off for work. But then I got on at Jotun Paints in Bell Chase. Totally different than the river. Jotun is a paint company owned from Norway. And they're kind of like Sherman-Williams here in the United States. It's just kind of a competition. But I did safety for them. So I was back to my OSHA roots, doing the safety trainings, DOT hazmat, investigations. And, the good thing about working at Jotun was it was 7:30 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon, no nights, no weekends, no on call. It was day shift. You got 50 people that work at the plant and the warehouse and the paint factory, doing all the stuff there. So it really brought me closer to my family. Because that's one thing I didn't mention, with AEP, I traveled a lot. You're always on the go. And but now I'm home, dedicated to my kids. I have 3 kids. I have a boy now he's fixing to be 13. One that's 8 and a little girl that's 6. So they take up all my time. But when they're, being a little bit younger at that time, so this is 2018, right? Spending time with them, and it was great. It was a good year. But that's when I got a phone call, and I ended up meeting with a year into this with Carl Gonzalez, Keith Savoy, and Bob Younger with Plims Marine. And they asked me if I'd be interested in going back on the river. And it wasn't a quick decision. It wasn't yeah, I'm ready to go. It was a conversation with my wife. And she even told me, she goes, she said, as much as I love having you home, you're a different person. She said, I can tell you're not the same person you were when you were on the river. And I told her, I said, the good thing about Plimsoll is, it's local. I'm not going to be doing a lot of traveling. So, I'll be back on call at night and, being out late some nights and meetings, et cetera. I said, but I'm local. So I went for it. And so I was there at Plimsoll Marine. I guess that was, trying to get my dates. I had to be like the beginning of 2019 because it was probably the first quarter of 2019. Started there. So I was doing all the, safety with Bob Younger there and doing the boat compliance and vessel audits, and a great group of guys. I have nothing but respect for Plimsoll Marine and their outfit. And Carl Gonzalez he'll always be an idol of mine. Bob Younger, same way. Learned a lot from that guy. He can do a vessel audit as good as anyone else I've ever seen in the industry. But I was there 6 months, 6 months only. And Carl sent me up to an AWO meeting in Chicago. So I was at the AWO meeting in Chicago representing Plimsoll. And that's when I was walking through the hallway and ran into Matt Lagarde. And he kind of looked at me weird, and he has that Matt Lagarde look. And I love Matt. I've worked with him for years, and he knows what he wants, and he knows how to get results, and it's just the way he is. He looked at me and said, "I've got a job for you, or at least a job you need to apply for. Nothing's given, right?" But he wanted to make sure I understood. I was like, "Matt, I just got on at Plims. I've been here 6 months. I'm loving what I do. I'm just getting back in the industry." And in my mind, I'm thinking, my wife's definitely not going to go for that, because I know Ingram's massive, and I'm gonna be traveling all the time again. And so that was kind of the starting point. But went home, talked to her, and I talked to Matt a little more at the meetings naturally about what the job was, and with tank barges and tank barge vetting, stuff like that. And went home and talked it over with my wife, and she's kind of shook her head, and she goes, "I knew I wouldn't hold you down very long." And so I went ahead and applied for the job, and luckily, the interview went really well, and I got it. So that's how it all transitioned from AEP to ACBL to a year off to Plimsoll to now with Ingram.
And what's the job now? What's the day job? What are you doing every day?
So I'm part of the safety compliance team, but my main focus is tank barge quality assurance, vetting, and compliance. So the SIRE program with all our tank barges, I work day to day with the liquids department naturally. The SIRE program with all of our barges, which now we have boats that are getting sired as well, our Houston fleet boats as well. So I'm over the SIRE program. Vetting is a big part of my job with the third-party vendors. Basically, any company that touches our tank barges that will push one, we vet them to ensure they're in compliance with SUBM, and their safety standards are as high as ours. Reviewing their investigation, even the small things like their investigation process. So if something were to occur, I know, and our company knows, that they are sound, they have a good program, and they can get to the bottom of it to ensure reoccurrence doesn't occur, right? And it also builds those relationships to where being a third-party vendor, they know your expectations, right? So that's a big part of my job. Still do first aid CPR, as you know. You're in my class Tuesday there. Good for 2 years there, Tim. Doing that, and then I still help when needed with safety compliance. I help with the ISAFs when they have incidents if they need me to. I'm not one to say no. I love doing training. I know Sandra does a great job with the training department and has asked me to help sometimes with the tank barge inspection program. That's another part of my job, of the tank barge inspections and building that program and the tank policies and training these guys on that is a big thing. So Sanders allowed me to be a part of that with her lead man trainings and the Seamen's Church captain's meetings and all that. So that's a nutshell, I guess. Without the busy work in the background of all the other parts, that's the main focus.
Well, I look forward to seeing whatever happens for you in the coming years. Hopefully I'll be there to watch it. But is there anything else you care to share for the industry, for the Mariner, for your family, anybody?
I mean, I love this industry, Tim. I've been, like I said, 19 years, going on 20. I can't see myself doing anything else. And I think, if there's one message I could give, I could care less if anyone remembers my name. When I retire, I don't care if they say, "Oh, Brad Glenn, he was a good guy in the industry." My main focus is to make a difference in the industry. When I retire, I want to know that I've made it better. And, I think if everyone kind of had that attitude, be a little better the next day. As they say, you've heard that expression, "Be the coffee bean." You put a bean of coffee or you put a bean in a pot of boiling water. It's no longer water, it's coffee, right? You've changed the atmosphere. So if everyone just be coffee beans and, try to make it better, I think we can all make an impact and build the culture up this entire industry. But no, man, I'm just glad you had me on today. That's really cool.
Well, thank you for your time, man. Have a good weekend.
Right, you too, bud.
Talk to you soon.
This has been a production of Where You At Studios, LLC.